Well, hello. Welcome to Reluctantly Resilient for the Holidays. I'm Chrissy Myers, author of the book Reluctantly Resilient. I'm also co-captain of Team Awesome Sauce and CEO of AUI and Clarity HR. So throughout the presentation, you may see a QR code. That's a way to connect to my launch team and newsletter. So if at any time you want to connect, please scan the code. Like all good presentations in December, I'm going to start out by telling you a story of Christmas past. So it was Christmas Eve of 2013, 4 months after the death of my husband, and I was determined to have the perfect holiday for my daughter, Maddie, almost 6, and Caleb, almost 2. From my perspective, the best way to do this was to mark the holiday in the same way we always had as a family. My Superwoman syndrome was in full gear as I wrapped presents and maintained traditions. I even tried to do more as a single person than I had ever done when Michael was alive and we were doing things together as parents and a couple. So per tradition, I invited a group of friends and my family members over for a holiday brunch. I planned to cook the entire meal myself. Since I was having issues focusing because of grief, I created detailed lists for shopping and a timeline of what to cook when. I shopped for everything I needed 2 days early. I was organized and ready for the 20 people who were going to descend on my house. I was using every hack I could think of to keep efficient and on task. And I was going to win newly widowed Christmas as a single mom. So the evening before the brunch, Christmas Eve, the kids and I had settled in at the house and I was beginning to get ready to prep our dinner. So picking through the mail, I noticed a holiday card that I had gotten from Michael's parents, and it caught me off guard. So I took a few deep breaths. I put my emotions to the side and turned on our oven to make some chicken nuggets. At that point, I was in efficiency mode. I didn't have time to be distracted by my feelings. I had a lot of things to do, and I headed out of the kitchen to do a quick chore. I returned then to my kitchen, to a smoke-filled kitchen with flames shooting out of my oven. In my need to be efficient and keep my house clutter-free, even though I was preparing brunch for 20 people, I had stored all of the dry ingredients for the brunch in the oven the previous day, which included 2 full bags of brown sugar. So I would like to report that I was calm and cool under pressure. I pulled out a fire extinguisher and handled every issue that I had in my kitchen with grace and confidence. I was not. Instead, conjure up the image of me frantically calling 911 and 5-year-old Maddie running through the house, throwing her treasures into a grocery bag, me trying to grab our elderly dog who decided in that moment to become an Olympic sprinter and trying to get everyone out of the house safely. Maddie and I were running around like cartoon characters, all while Caleb sat in his high chair and munched on a cracker. So fortunately, the moments of the cartoon environment quickly turned into the kids, the dog, and myself, along with Maddie's grocery bag of treasures, getting into the car and backing away from the house. The fire department arrived in less than 5 minutes and put out the fire, and we were shaken, but we were safe. So it goes without saying that this incident was a learning moment for me to slow down. So often we get distracted by the many things that are going on in our lives: work, the economy, relationships, money, unresolved conflict, the chatter in our head, maybe even a trauma we've not fully processed, that we miss key moments, or worse yet, cause damage to ourselves and others. So attempting to barbecue my house at Christmas was a warning to me to slow down. It was a point to refine me in my road to building resilience. Another framework for resilience is emotional intelligence, or EQ. Dr. Rufus Spann says that EQ, unlike our IQ, which is fixed, is flexible and can grow over time. So the following is a list that signals a high EQ. So self-awareness regarding your own strengths and weaknesses, regulation of a full range of emotions, pursuing goals without negative self-talk, letting go of mistakes and grudges, being curious about what others are feeling and understanding of their emotions. Communicating effectively is another sign of high EQ. Also responding constructively to conflict. So building our EQ means that we have to confront instead of suppress emotions we may consider negative. Hanan Parvez explains that people suppress emotions for a number of different reasons. Sometimes suppression is a means of escape because negative emotions are painful to experience. Sometimes people want to appear perfect. Acknowledging mistakes and failures is hard. Many people believe expressing negative emotions is weak and shows a lack of control. And oftentimes people just don't want to be labeled as negative. So as a result of suppression, we can become emotionally numb, which means we're robbing ourselves of the richness of our experience. My journey towards building my EQ from the attempted barbecue has now taken time, but in beginning to do this, I've acknowledged a full range of emotions and descriptors in my life. Those emotions have grown from numb to enjoyable, triumphant, delighted, also devastating and frustrating, fearful, panicky, liking, longing, warm, gloomy, bright, and many more emotions. My feelings and my range in life is now multifaceted, and there are a lot less flames ahead, especially in my kitchen. So there are many ways to build our EQ, but one of the most important steps to take in building our resilience is in acknowledging what is around us when things are not as we've anticipated or planned. So we ask for help when we need it. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of resilience. So the point I want to leave you with as I encourage you to be reluctantly resilient for the holidays, is the key to not only having a more present holiday season, but also a more full life. So Doctors Rick and Forrest Hansen are the authors of the book Resilient. They write about the importance of mindfulness, which is a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and sensations. So they state, with mindfulness, you can step back from your reactions and observe them from a more peaceful and centered place. You accept them for what they are, while at the same time being identified by them. Mindfulness is how I remain resilient through the holidays and beyond. It allows me separation from the chipmunk chatter in my brain on all the things going on in my business, community life, and Team Awesome Sauce life. It puts the emotional and reasonable together in balance. It builds capacity to find the tiny space I need to respond and enjoy instead of reacting. So let's go back to the human brain for a minute. The human brain is hardwired to survive, which obviously is a good thing. In the complexity of our lives, however, some of the responses that saved our ancestors actually can work against us. One of those things is negativity bias. So you've probably heard this before, but here's a refresher in how it works. If our prehistoric ancestors missed an opportunity because they weren't paying attention, other opportunities would come along. If those same ancestors missed a threat from a predator because they weren't paying attention, they died. They were eaten by the bear. So as a result, our bodies are hardwired to scan for continual threats. While we're scanning for threats and encoding negative events, we are allowing the positive relationships and positive events in our lives to go unnoticed and unappreciated. So we get stuck in the loops that rob us of joy. So think about a situation, maybe recently, in which you made a minor mistake or experienced a small failure. How many of us have ruminated on it? I know I have. I've ruminated for hours, sometimes days, sometimes things have kept me up for multiple nights. I know I have. I'm sure that you maybe have too. And if you're like most people, and if you're at all like me, the attention you gave the mistake did not match the severity at all. You stewed over the situation. What could you have done differently? You probably wallowed in feelings of guilt. Has anybody else done that shame spiral like I have? Who's done the shame spiral this month while maybe munching on a Christmas cookie? Given a lot of time to something that was completely undeserving. So how about we stop shaming ourselves for eating those Christmas cookies in a shame spiral? Dr. Hansen tells us that if 9 out of 10 things happening in our day are positive, we're probably going to think about and remember the negative one because of that negativity bias. It doesn't mean we were wired wrong. We're simply living in the negativity bias that was vital to our ancestors' survival. So it's time for us to stop shaming and start rewiring our brains. So how do we rewire? Well, just like we get in physical shape and build muscle by practice, we build our mental resilience through practice. So we practice mindfulness by being present in the moment and meditation, also by not judging the feelings that we have. Practicing gratitude can also override some of those loops of negativity. So I'm not sure who originally coined the phrase that life is a marathon, not a sprint. I appreciate the word picture, but I also tend to rebel against it at the same time. So for me, the word marathon triggers fears surrounding being a perfectionist. I do not want to attempt a marathon because if I can't be good at it, if I don't know if I can finish, if I might fail, why should I start at all? So that's the type of perspective that's prevented me from trying new things and reaching beyond my comfort zone. It puts me in a fear state and gives me permission to not try. It's an old fixed mindset preventing me from growing, learning, and being the best Chrissy that I can be. So taking the time to recognize those unproductive thoughts and rewire my mindset is a continuous process, but shift, it's possible. So resilience is both a thought process and a skill set we're building. My elementary school self wants to say that marathons are stupid, but the part of me that's grown over time and understands the metaphor as of a marathon for emotional and business resilience is a good one. So while I'd like to say resilience is something you achieve, we all know it's an ongoing path to growth marked with many lessons learned towards the finish. So with each mile we complete our resilience and we compete with resilience, our muscles get stronger. So it reminds me of grog. Has anyone heard of grog? So grog is ground up pottery that potters and brickmakers use to add to clay to make it stronger and less prone to firing defects. Grog is a kind of grit. So each time I open myself to growth in the face of challenge and trauma, I think of it as adding good grit. It's an ingredient that adds strength and bounce to my life. So this kind of grit isn't the kind that pushes me through by a sheer determination. It's the grit that adds substance, textures, and new insight to my life. This is resilience. And I'm grateful for the grog of my past life, the hardships, the life lessons, the ones that continue to be teachable moments for myself and others, like trying to barbecue my house, because they've made me stronger. So I'm grateful for the wisdom of my future self that pulls me presently forward. This holiday season, as I look forward to the future, I don't see perfectionism or a life that will not have the occasional bumps and hardships. But I also don't see any fires either. And that's progress that I can celebrate. So to wrap things up in how to be resilient in the holidays, managing the pressure of the end of this year at work, the expectations of holidays by family and friends, the want to cross all the things off the list, I have a few simple steps for how you can remain resilient in the holiday season. So the first is to just take a minute to pause and breathe. Because it doesn't matter if you've got everything on the checklist done, if you've made yourself miserable, your loved ones miserable, or you don't remember what was going on or what happened during the holiday season because you were too worried about moving on to the next thing. Take a moment to be mindfully present. If you drift off to the to-do list while you're trying to be mindfully present, pull yourself back into the moment. It's not failure, it's just a reminder to come back. So I know for me, I'm a list maker. I've been a list maker my entire life. And in the beginning of my mindfulness journey, it was helpful for me to intentionally list when I needed to be present. So if you struggle with being present when you have a lot going on, I encourage you to write that down on your to-do list. Write 3 moments that you want to be present for in the day as a reminder to your conscious and subconscious to pay attention. Mindfulness is an intentional practice. It doesn't just happen. You make it happen. So I want to thank you for your time today. I know I said that it was going to be a half an hour, but in giving you time back, I hope you learned how to be reluctantly resilient through the holidays. I want us to all practice mindfulness as we journey through the rest of the season and the new year. So for those of you who are interested, you can follow me on social media through LinkedIn and Instagram, Chrissy Myers, CEO. Reluctantly Resilient is currently available through Amazon in both print and Kindle, with the audiobook coming out soon. My official launch week is going to be January 29th. That's the beginning of the launch week. So if you'd like to be a part of the launch team, please feel free to scan the QR code and join the launch team contact list. I'd appreciate your support in launching this book. Has been its own test in resilience. I will have another Zoominar talking about one key that business owners need as their business grows to be resilient, and that's going to be coming out in January. So thank you again for your time. I wish all of you a bright and beautiful holiday season. And with that, I am going to gift you with a few intentional moments. Take the next few moments, because everyone thinks you're still on the Zoom, to pause and breathe for this holiday season. Before you go back to the hustle of your holiday, take a moment and write down those 3 things that you want to be present for today. Thank you.